My name's Andy Yelen. I grew up here in Derry Quin, close to Sneem, County Kerry. My family moved here back in the late 70s. I think they moved to Ireland back in the late 70s. First to Clare, and then made their way down here. Ended up in Sneem town for a period, and back in this patch here for the last 45 years-ish. Yeah. I think they were actually just travelling around by car. They did the whole coast of Ireland from east back round to west. Found Sneem, buying the acre or 2 acres that they have that their house is on now. My mother played some music in the local pubs around the place. They just did odd jobs to try to make ends meet at that stage. I think they came over with 2,000, the equivalent of €2,000, and that's where they bought this place for, and then they just did odd jobs to support themselves.
Made it work. I love that. When they bought this patch of land, was it with the idea that they would open a gallery for their art? Or
when they bought this patch of land, no, I don't think. But I suppose my grandmother would have been painting a little more at that stage, and I think it's just something that they identified was a strength of theirs, and it just went from there. Yeah.
Like maybe the landscape kind of encourages that kind of creativity.
I think so as well, and I think in terms of my grandmother as well, like in terms of feeling at home in Ireland, she's always been much more in tune with her spiritual side, and I think just the idea that the Irish mythologies like the fairies and otherworldly beings kind of made her feel at home in the countryside.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Florian, anytime I say I hate something, Florian says you can't say that or a fairy will die, because your granny used to say that.
Yeah, she used to say that, alright, yeah.
That's cute. I didn't realise your mum was
mind those fairies.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I didn't realise your mum was a musician. What kind of music did she play?
She played a lot of folk music. She played guitar and sang. Mainly her voice was her thing. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then she got into the painting. Not long after they got here, I think.
What year do you reckon did Brushwood Studios open?
I don't know, but I think they're doing a 45th anniversary, either 45th or 50th in the next couple of years. So they're thereabouts.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I think it was called Dawn Studios at that stage. Yeah.
Your granny's name's Dawn?
I don't know where they came up with Dawn, but no. My granny's name was Anne.
Okay. And then what was it like for you growing up around like an artist space or?
I loved growing up here. I mean, like in terms of the art side of things, it was great for me. I'm a musician now, and I think just having artists as family, they didn't push me into a real job, say. They were happy with what I wanted to do, and they always very encouraging with how I wanted my life to turn out, I could make more money, but I'm happy in what I do. Growing up with my family, being artists, they did invite a lot of the local kids and to get involved in the painting line of things, and I think a lot how I met some of my early friendships, and I understand how lucky I am to have grown up in that situation, but I suppose just the painting didn't interest me when I was that age.
That's so gas. You were just upstairs listening to Metallica, like?
I was upstairs listening to Slayer mainly, having a bath and listening to Slayer. My family, along the art side of things, would have been a meeting point for maybe some of the more alternative people in the area, albeit, not just Blow-Ins, locals, but just along the more alternative line of things. Yeah.
Where did your love of music begin?
Well, I've always listened to a lot of music, but it was actually a funny one. How I started playing music was myself, my brother, and a friend of ours walking down in Sneem one day. I think I was probably around 10, and my brother just says to us, "Do you want to start a band?" I was like, "Yeah," and Brendan said yes too. And I think my brother called dibs on guitar, Brendan called dibs on drums, and I was left with bass. At the time, I think it was my mother was kind of maybe sussing out whether this is a serious thing or not. So the cheapest thing to buy at the time was a guitar. I was the one who seemed maybe most interested out of the three of us in starting. Got me a guitar, went from there really. Yeah. My uncle plays guitar quite well, and he taught me the basic chords, so on. I would have been into very different music to what he would have been into, but he gave me the foundation. And then I just went from there, just working out songs from records and the odd bit of any lesson I could find online, and yeah, completely self-taught until I went to college in Brighton in 2007. Yeah.
What was that band with your brother and Brendan called?
I think it was called Calyx.
Calyx?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Wait, did you ever gig?
We gigged all around the place.
Where would you gig?
Well, we gigged in a couple of the pubs in town.
As
in
10-year-olds?
the Wondering. No, not as 10-year-olds. No,
Okay.
this was a couple of years later.
Okay.
Maybe 12, 13. And yeah, we gigged in, I think, what was the Wonder Inn at the time, once or twice. Then school concerts, like mini little festivals, family festivals and things like that. Yeah, Battle of the Bands. Yeah. The INEC, we won a Battle of the Bands that ended up supporting Ocean Colour Scene in the INEC. It was, maybe not the most well suited what we played at the time, but you know, it was an experience.
Yeah, that's cool that you made that
for
happen.
everybody, an experience for everybody.
Then?
I'd say I was probably 15 at the time, maybe. At that stage, I was big into music, and I knew it was the thing I wanted to do with my life, and kind of everything else took the backseat. Really, school, everything, you know. Friendships and music were my biggest things in life at that time. Up around here in general, like I loved it. Mainly I think just the friends around here were a huge part of just, you know, warming to the community, and I think to an extent when you make any bit of an effort at all, the locals might kind of look at you weirdly initially, but when you make an effort, you go to the pub, you just show your face around, people are always welcoming then. Yeah.
You just become part of the fabric of the place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And did you find growing up with like artsy parents that were from South Africa that you were maybe like? Yeah,
I think I was viewed as definitely alternative growing up. However, like I've always felt Irish, and like even when I felt like people have felt otherwise, I've always felt Irish. I mean, I was born here. And I've always felt like a local. I mean, if not, where else am I from, really? Like, you know, yeah. When I hit my teenage years, I think I was just always willing to kind of just go with life as it was. And I think I went to study in Cork and dropped out of that. And then I was kind of at a loss, really. And my dad lives over in Australia, so I said, might as well go over there. For all I didn't stay with him over there, did a bunch of traveling and lived in hostels, and just worked odd jobs, fruit picking, solar panels over there, and had the idea to go back to Canada with a couple of friends then. That fell through. Started a course up in Dublin then, so yeah.
And then what made you feel like returning, or what was the reason you came back?
I've always felt like this was home to me. Even at any stages when I felt like I've wanted to be somewhere else, it has never been a thought of mine that I wouldn't end up back here at some stage. So it's always been where it's felt like home to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there is something special that like roots you to this place? Like, is it the landscape? Is it just all you've ever known? Or is it maybe the nostalgia for a beautiful childhood here? Or
I think the landscape is obviously a big one. I much prefer the countryside. But it's also, as I mentioned earlier, friends, huge thing for me. I think like just from being away for the years that I have been, and just witnessing other friends, especially growing up in cities and even other small communities, just the bond that we all have over here in this community, particularly between here to Sneem to Kenmare, it's just a special bond, and I haven't seen it anywhere else really, you know, so I think that's what really makes it feel like home for me. Yeah.
And this place as well seems to be a really good hub for musicians, like so.
Yeah, I think that's kind of also a big part of integrating into the community for me was music. And I mean, also in talking about friendships, I think a lot of the friends that I have met, a lot of the close oldest friends I've met through music, one way or another. And yeah, I mean, like, for me to be able to make a living as a musician in a small town is pretty crazy, really. Yeah, well, I gig between 5 and 7 times a week these days. Couple of months off, couple of quiet months around November, December, January, February type of thing. But yeah, for the rest of the season, from March till end of November, it's flat out, really. I gig very locally down in the Park of Silla 3 nights a week, which I love. And yeah, Kenmare once a week, Killarney, Waterville, and anywhere it takes me, really. Yeah, I think more than a lot of places, there's the music scene around Kenmare, from my experience anyway, it's pretty tight knit, and there isn't that element that you might see other places of, you know, that's my gig, stay away from it type of thing. I think everybody kind of work, or a lot of people work together, and I mean, myself, I play with 5 or 6, maybe more people on a regular basis, different people in duos, and you know, there's never that competition or that side of things. It's a really well suited community for me. Yeah.
So you can see why musicians stop here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you know, I gotta mention Crowley's Bar in Kenmare. It's, you know, one of the only places around really that's keeping kind of the more outside live music alive, and yeah, long history of music there, and yeah, and also great people that run and own the place. Yeah.
That helps. And what about original music? Do you work a lot on original music?
With not so much of my own original music, but with other people. I've collaborated on a few bits with other people. Mainly my job is to back people. I kind of always talk about it. It's like, I'm kind of like mashed potato. It's like, if there's, you might have like a great steak, and the steak might be the singer, but you know, a steak on its own, it's all right. But you put the steak on mashed potatoes, you're not going to eat the mashed potatoes on their own, okay? But together they're perfect. Yeah.
I love that. There's no ego in that, and it takes a very good musician to enhance the sound. Yeah,
I think that's what I'm good at, and I think that's why I've kind of just landed in that role. Really, I could create a big sound around other musicians, so it's worked well for me. Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself doing any sort of like album inspired by this landscape? With like maybe sound recordings or field recordings?
Yeah, I'd love to do some of my own original music. Really try to work a lot more in that direction in the years to come. I think it's just the house has been so consuming. It just I need a bit of time to unwind after this is finished. But yeah, I'd love to get into the more original side of things with music. And yeah, I mean, I think the best way to approach original music is to do what you love, and there's nothing I love more than the place I live and the people I'm around. So I think when I built this place, it was myself and my ex at the time, and I think the only reason built this place was because I knew so little about building at the time. So I think...
Go on, give us a rundown. What's involved in building a house? PTSD?
Yeah, PTSD. No money. But yeah, no, it's kind of been all-consuming really in general, the house building, like financially and physically for sure, even emotionally and otherwise really, you know. But, you know, massive payoff now, and I am where I want to be, and, you know, it's been a long road, but a very, with a huge payoff. Yeah.
I think it's an incredible achievement that you've built this house by yourself, not 2 minutes down the road from the place you grew up.
Yeah, it is for sure, and not without help from my family too, in terms of expertise for sure. Yeah, yeah. And my grandfather was a man for the anything cement-based he loved. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea, to be honest. Yeah, my family did a lot of building back in South Africa, albeit with very, very different conditions, in terms of, just not trying to fight the weather the whole time. But yeah, I suppose my uncle and my grandfather would have had long history in building, really, so yeah.
So they were able to remove themselves from an apartheid state because you had an Irish relative?
Yeah, because they had an Irish grandmother, because at the grandmother rule, they managed to, it was either they had some US relatives and an Irish grandmother, and it was one of the two places they picked Ireland. Through my grandfather's grandmother, through her Irish citizenship, that's how they came over here and got their citizenship.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Whereabouts was she from, do you know, in Ireland?
I think the West Cork area. I started building this house, I think, around 5 years ago now. Not started building it, started the planning process for this house around 5 years ago. The planning itself took nearly a year. There was some area of conservation things, not issues, but things that we had to get ironed out between the council and environmental specialists, because there's a bat roost just down the road.
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
But yeah, so it dragged out a little bit, but started building around 4 years ago. What's the first thing we need to do? Foundation. I talked to a local digger driver, Stephen O'Brien, and he said, yeah, perfect. A couple of weeks later, he was saying, Andy, when are we starting this foundation? So he comes up, foundation is started, I'm helping him with that. His brother, Dennis, was a massive help in the early stages of this project. He did the block work for this house, along with myself being his kind of lackey, I suppose, or donkey. From there, it's been all me. My uncle has been a massive help in terms of expertise, and when I've needed a second pair of hands, he's been there for me, so much throughout this whole process. But from there, yeah, all the plastering, all the kitchen, the woodwork, everything, tiling has been done by my own hands. Yeah.
That's so incredible. That's really, really cool. Like the amount of skills, I hear what you're saying, like if you'd known what it entailed, you might not have taken on a project so brave.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
But the amount of skills that you have now.
Totally. I think it was a happy accident, I think, that I took on this project, But I think knowing what I know now, if I had a time machine, no, maybe not if I had a time machine, but if I knew what I know now back then, I never would have done it. Yeah. But I'm happy I did.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I named this house Raid Lawn, which it means a house for parties and dancing. A field for parties and dancing, which is what I hope this house can be in the future. I hope that I'll grow old in this area anyway, or at least close to. Between Sneem and Kenmare, yeah, they're special places to me. Yeah.